right? To give a vent to whatever is going on in your mind. This, yeah. So I think we are about time and we have some people already. So namaste everyone, all the people who have joined and who are going to listen in later on. So today is our 14th session of Manav Vyavhar Darshan English translation, and we have making slow and steady progress with this book, and each person is coming with their experience and making this alive. Uh, the book as such is just words, but when somebody reads it, then it becomes alive, right? So because they are bringing in their experience and how it appeals to them, and each of the persons who are basically reading them are have actually spent a considerable amount of time in with this darshan, trying to understand. It has touched the darshan has touched their life, and they somewhere feel that it gives them some purpose and direction, right? So in this sense, today we will have continuation of chapter 4, the human purpose, and Shubha Banerjee Didi from Raipur will continue from where she left in the last Saturday. So welcome, Shubha Didi.
Thank you.
So would you share the screen?
So you, Bhaiya, please share the screen because again, this will create an issue. And
Okay.
so namaste everyone. And I'm again in front of you trying to explain the thing. As we were discussing with Rakesh Bhaiya, I find it little difficult to explain it. In fact, it is more difficult when people like you are around who know most of the things. So I also get a little bit of like, although you don't judge, but I feel like that I should be trying my best to explain the thing.
Mhm.
So, we start. Shall I start, Priya?
जी दीदी बिल्कुल.
Okay. So again, I will switch off my video. Okay. So we completed till this Anubhuti where free will grant point is mentioned. But before that, I would like to correct my one of the statement which I made in the last session that animals do not have imagination, because they have little bit of imagination and they have something, they have some activity pertaining to their sentient element, so nature. So they have little bit of imagination which help them to find their food, find ways to survive. But what they don't have exactly is free will. They are dependent. So the last Anubhuti was on how deluded human and then animals and then awakened human are different in this way. So I'll be starting with the next Anubhuti, that is free will grants human the potential for both progress and decline. Consequently, humans have sought to attain restfulness by pursuing instincts, righteous desire, and moksha. Moksha means comprehensive resolution, which is liberation from delusion. Evidencing this state itself is awakening. So, as we human, because of our body structure and because of our developed brain, we have this free will. We can do whatever we imagine, whatever we want, and whatever we plan. So, but this free will can take us in both the direction, whether we can progress or we can actually deteriorate our understanding or our state of like where we do live. So, and this direction or this where we will go depends on our, that whether we are pursuing our instincts, which is for material things, or we are going for the righteous desire. And then finally, if we are looking for something which is when there is no delusion, when we are looking at something that is liberation or moksha. So and this state where we can look when we can grow above our instincts, above our conditioning, then it is actually awakening. So Babaji has explained this anubhuti further, that it has been earlier it has been explained that developed universe includes all the attributes, intrinsic nature and dharma of the undeveloped universe. I think here one word entity can also be there. Accordingly, humans are born with the choice to do what is wrong, while also having the opportunity and means to do what is right. However, every human could not find human consciousness from tradition. Consequently, humans lived in animal consciousness until the year 2000, and it is inevitable for them to make mistakes in such a state. So, here one fact that is being explained is that every entity in the universe is having the intrinsic nature, attributes, dharma of the previous or preliminary entity from which it has evolved. And then, as human being, we have this. We can commit mistake. We have right to commit mistake, and then we have also the opportunity to rectify it based on our understanding, because we have this ability, because we have ability to understand, we have ability to perceive, so we can take choices. We are not bound to uh, choose what is there. We can still make our own choices. These choices can be wrong or right based on our state of understanding. So Babaji is explaining here that since consciousness was not very well understood, and this coexistence was not understood, so people committed lot of mistakes in understanding the nature, in understanding the existence. And it's not like they did it willfully, but they it is a mistake. So it actually occurred because of lack of understanding until 2000, because then he has started explaining the coexistential living and values, human centric value to everyone. Further, he is explaining this. For instance, consider a mathematics teacher instructing a class. They teach correctly and treat all students equally. However, some students still make mistakes, demonstrating that humans tend to err due to delusion. Moreover, it has been observed that the same student become capable of performing correctly when they are provided with a human environment and effective teaching. This proves that learning is an inherent need and opportunity for every human, and humans have the tendency to correct themselves despite being in animal consciousness. It's a beautiful thing that if we are given a good environment, learning environment, if we are given something where we are not conditioned to the existing beliefs, and then if we are given an environment where everything is truthfully explained, then we can also learn. Like it is, he's explaining with the example of a mathematics teacher, that he explains everything to every student in the same way, but based on their receptivity, based on their potential, the student learn in a different way. So coexistence is there, existence is there. It has been there since years, since the time we, like every always. So if it is there, but we have not got that receptivity, we have not got that curiosity to understand. And also we had no teacher, we had no such literature where we can get information about it. Some of the information was there, but every literature or every book I have seen on this understanding the coexistence, whether it is Indian or Western philosophy, there is some lacking in them. So they were not able to understand it. But we have this ability to understand, and it is equal in almost all human beings. Given good environment, good teacher, we can learn that. So the next anubhuti is humans perform experiment and engage in the production only to fulfill their needs. The experimentation and production leads to earning wealth. So why we work, why we get engaged in the production activity is that we have certain needs. All those needs are essentially they needs to be fulfilled. And then all human, if we see in the course of evolution or even today, all our activity is towards earning wealth, towards producing the things that are helpful to fulfill our needs. So every human is having this tendency to work, to produce, to experiment, and then every human wants to earn wealth. So every human wants security and righteous utilization of available resources. This is further explanation that uh, we not only want to sorry it- we not only want to produce, but we also want to ensure that whatever we are producing, whatever we are manufacturing, is getting used properly, is actually in the right hands, and it is then secured, because uh, a creation is something that you always, we love our own creation, we love our own production, and then we like to see that it is used properly. But again, due to lack of understanding, the righteous utilization is something that is lacking, and therefore the security is also not properly addressed. Based on their respective ability, potential, and receptivity, each deluded human formulated their individual policy with the desire for the righteous utilization and security of available resources, which led to disputes among them. Consequently, they began to explore a universal principled system, leading to the discovery of one fundamental principle, that is, humans are united in right and divided in the wrong. So, since humans have tried to understand, to uh, see how things work, to produce, and then how they can be secured for their next generation and for the generations to come, and then how these resources are available for their uh, future generations. So based on their own ability and potential, people have found ways, people designed some ways for their for putting these resources in the right place, for securing them, for uh, keeping them safe. But because everyone had their own conditioning, everyone had their own thoughts of me and mine, and then other things like how to use the things, and accumulation was one of the reason that they thought that accumulating a thing is a kind of securing a thing, a material. So consequently it led to certain disputes, because then the resources are not available to all. So this was wrong actually, that something which is not universal, which is not common, which is not universally acceptable to all, becomes wrong. So in the other way, we can see that we are one, or we have a universal understanding if it is right, and if we have multiple thoughts, if we have disputes in that, then the principle itself is not right, it is wrong. Principle itself is destiny. Destiny itself is law. Law itself is wisdom and science. Wisdom and science itself is knowledge, and knowledge itself is the principle. So here Babaji is again explaining a very important thing, that there is something that is whatever is there is having, whatever whatever entity is there in nature, in existence, is following certain law. And if we understand this law, and if we know how to use this law, the application part of it, in terms of its time, that is duration, how what activity will result into what, and then what kind of decision we have to make, it comes with why this thing is there in existence. So it becomes knowledge. So wisdom and science, wisdom is knowing a law, and then also knowing how to apply it, when to apply it, and when to stop. So then this becomes knowledge, and then this knowledge itself is principle, and this is destiny. Why this is destiny? Because destiny is nothing but outcome of law, that everything will follow a pattern, everything will follow a law, and it will have a not a pre-decided result, but not a pre-decided outcome, but if we take certain activity in certain way, it will result in a particular thing only. So this is how principle is defined. The law, process, and accomplishment, when it takes the form of language, it is called as principle. The process is in the form of work and behavior that has a particular consequences and result. So if we see a law and then we try to find a process for it and accomplishment, that what is going to be the resultant of it, and then if we put it in language, then it becomes principle. It is documented for humankind. Otherwise, the law is always there, the process is always there, and it will be accomplished in the same way. And we can call it destiny if we don't know about it in the form of a language, or if we don't prove it in the form of work and behavior, then it will happen. It will take its own course, but we will not understand it. So the process is in the form of work and behavior that has a particular consequence and result. Law, that is niyam, the way of protection and discipline of an activity is law. So when we say protection, that means we are talking about continuity of that activity always for longer period. Protection doesn't mean stopping anything or barring anything, but it is like that activity is continued for long, for always, till permanency. So this is actually protection. And discipline is when we try to follow this pattern or the principle repeatedly, repetitively, to get the same result, and we know that this is going to happen, and then we have that repetitive cycle, we can reproduce it by following a pattern, then it is discipline. Human wants to study, experiment, and adhere to sociality, that is human culture, civilization, legislation, and system, for the protection of humanness, as these four are mutually complementary. Now, in the previous Anubhuti, Babaji is talking about protection of activity. All activity in the coexistence in the universe are divided into the four states. So, four orders. So, and all those activities are already protected. We don't need to do anything to protect them, like, because they are following a particular law and they are having a particular process. So, their result is also fixed. Humanness is something where we need to put effort for its protection. Otherwise, the human culture or humanness will be lost, and will be lost means it will not be stabilized first, it will not be established. So human wants to study, experiment, and adhere to sociality, because sociality is the only thing where we can uh, protect human tradition. Otherwise, if we try to do it alone, it will not be transferred to the next generation. There will be no tradition of our understanding. So, when we say culture, that means we are talking about some beliefs, thoughts, and way of living. Civilization is actually the way of living, of common belief for larger people, and then the things they follow in their day-to-day life. And it is how I see is that it is pertaining to a particular geographical area or a particular time period, then we can call it civilization, but it is actually the reflection of the way of living and the rules, usually customs, people follow. That is civilization. And then when we talk about legislation and system, then these are the methodologies, set methodologies, protocols that are to be followed, which we can call that this is right, or this is abiding by this, and this is not, this is wrong. Then it is in the terms of legislation, and there is a system that ensures that this legislation is followed. So all these four aspects, culture, civilization, legislation, and system, are for protection of humanness, and they are mutually complementary, because culture evolves and it is reflected in civilization, and similarly system is there for legislation, and if the legislation is right, then the system will be there. Otherwise, there will be revolt or there will be opposition. So for protection of humanness, we should have the culture, which is human culture, which is the civilization, which is running by the customs of humanness to protect this tradition, and similarly the legislation and system will be there. Science and wisdom based thought, behavior, study, teaching, production, utilization, righteous utilization, distribution, propagation, legislation, and system, all this constitute the comprehensive program for protection of humanness as realized by humans. So here again, Babaji is describing various how this can be done in various stages or in various components of protecting the humanness in tradition, right? So the thoughts which are based on science and wisdom, that is knowledge. Our behavior, which is manifestation of our thought or reflection of our thought, that should be aligned to our thought. Then study and teaching to understand these laws, to understand the science and wisdom in perspective of coexistence. Production also, utilization, righteous utilization in accordance to the science, in accordance to the law that exists, not in accordance to how we desire and how we want it. Then distribution, which is equal distribution or righteous distribution as per need, so that everyone is there, everyone gets the benefit of it and nobody is exploited. Propagation and legislation, where uh, and system that are to protect all this. That is legislation and system, again as I explained, will be to see that the all above things are done in a proper way, in and there is no, what we can say, there is no game of power game, or there is nothing like exploitation, or there is nothing like misuse of something or accumulation of certain resources. So this was realized comprehensive program for protection of humanness. Now when we say comprehensive program, then again we are talking about tradition, then the program that will address the culture and civilization at all levels. Babaji is explaining this anubhuti as thought or vichar. Thought is the definite analysis resulting from deliberation with the perspective of pleasant, unpleasant, healthy, unhealthy, profit, loss, justice, injustice, dharma, adharma, and truth, untruth. So he started the previous anubhuti with science and wisdom based thought. Here he is trying to explain that what is thought. It comes out of deliberation. It comes out of how we see, what is our perspective of seeing anything. If it is pleasant, unpleasant, healthy, unhealthy, and profit loss limited to these things, then the thought will not be righteous. The thought will not be the, what we can say, coexistentially aligned to coexistence. But if we, our thought is based on justice, injustice, and it has the perspective of dharma, adharma, and truth, untruth, then it will be a right thought. So, and this thought will be reflected in our behavior. So what we are thinking, what we are deliberating, what we are, how we are weighing our options is also important. Study or adhyan, the activity, process, endeavor carried out with remembrance in the witness of the seat of knowledge of Atma and under the guidance light of realization, is a study. So here Babaji is trying to explain what is a study. He is actually explaining the previous anubhuti, all the words of the anubhuti. And the by study, he doesn't mean study of what we see. By study, he is saying all the activity, process, endeavor carried out with remembrance, and it is all realization based. It is all in the light of, it is all in the light of realization, guiding light of realization. So then this study is actually, we know all the information, we have seen, we, when we have completed the information and we have we remember that information and that is well settled in our jivan, that means that is well settled in us, then only we can see the things in light of realization. This definition, that is a study, is the acceptance upon enlightenment by buddhi with remembrance in the witness of seat of knowledge. That means here buddhi decides based on all the available information and understanding, and then realization of the truth, that what is acceptable and what is not. And if it is acceptable, then it is settled. So this is all. This also comes with the realization which is done in Atma. So it is something very different from just reading something and going through and practicing it. It has to be well settled with the realistic principle. Teaching, that is adhyapan, the process with realization based method in the witness of state of knowledge upon enlightenment and contemplation with remembrance that makes the realities understandable, and truthfully itself is teaching. I think Babaji is explaining how he developed this method of teaching others, that once he realized the thing, then he tried to see the things and contemplated, and then given the words to each of his realization, each of his information that he got directly from existence, and then after remembering each of the information in the right stage, classifying them in four orders, then classifying all the categories of humans, and then how thought can be there, how thought will be generated, how behavior will be there, how production is there, what is science, what is nature, what is attribute. So he has placed everything, and then with his understanding, he tried to uh, provide this knowledge to the seeker, to the learner. So this is actually teaching. So teaching itself is a big thing. When we understand completely a thing, we know the whole picture, but we start giving it step by step. Propagation and exhibition, that is prachar evam pradarshan, the process of instilling the desired objective in the minds of general public through language itself is propagation. Exhibition is to utilize language and art in this endeavor. So propagation and exhibition is mostly for larger public. Teaching and study, learning, that is teaching and learning, is one-to-one process, is between a teacher and a taught. But propagation and exhibition is for a group of people where language is required, documentation is required, literature is required. While teaching and learning, the conduct of the teacher is also very important. गुरु का जो आचरण होता है, जो conduct है, that is also important, because a student is looking at that, is seeing, is judging actually everything. But for propagation and exhibition, it is mostly how well we put it in words, and then how well it is, the way we put it, the meaning of the word is uh, transferred to the learner. And when we put it in an artistic way, in a way that it is more easy to comprehend, then it becomes exhibition. Legislation, vidhi. Legislation refers to lawful methodology decided by one or more persons for providing a system with the objective of ensuring intactness of indivisible society and universal system. So we have seen that it is a lawful methodology. It depends on, when we say methodology, then it has a standard operating protocol. That means it has a procedure, it has various steps, and each step is properly marked. And then in each step, we know what to do, what not to do. So do's and don'ts are well defined. So this definition, do's and don't, is done by either one person or more person who have realized or who have learned. And this is done to provide a system so that the humanness is there, so the tradition of humanness can be maintained, an indivisible society and universal system can be achieved. System or vyavastha is the manifest tradition for implementing the intent legislation. The system that is developed so that the legislation is followed, so that the legislation is ensured, do's and don'ts are maintained in the society, that is called system. And system is not to be developed. System will be in place if there is lawful legislation, lawful methodology. It will be in place if the culture and civilization will take care of the uh, do's and don'ts, and will take care of the customs, and they will not be blind. So system, as I see, system is something that will be generated automatically. The next anubhuti is, there is no sustainment of sociality without the tradition of coexistence. So again, here we are talking about that if there are any conflicts, if there is any kind of exploitation, inequality, or if there is any imbalance among people, among the entities, then there will be no sociality. If this, or if there is a fear, then also there will be no sociality. And if there is no sociality, then there will be no tradition of humanness. We can see that we will start fighting, killing, and it can go to any level. The scale can be from that the fighting can be between two-person or can be two nations. So coexistential thought is required, that everybody has a place in society, everybody has a place in existence, and nobody is actually, what we can say, competing, or nobody is actually stopping anyone. Coexistence leads to conflictlessness. Conflictlessness leads to awakening. Awakening manifests as resolution and prosperity. Resolution and prosperity is realization of happiness and peace. Happiness and peace leads to affection. Affection leads to trust. Trust leads to enlightenment of coexistence. The evidence of enlightenment and realization in coexistence itself is awakening. So again, here Babaji is trying to point out that if there is conflict, there is no possibility of awakening. If we have conflict among ourselves, if we have conflict in society, then probably awakening is something that we cannot think of. If prosperity is also a feeling of being fulfilled with available resources, so it will not come with by accumulating the things. It will come after determination of our own needs. It will be like, uh, I know what I need and it is limited, and I know that resources are there, then only I will be able to distribute it to others once my own, even if I'm producing. So there will be no sense of ownership on the resources. And this gives to something that is peace. So happiness is something that is inside, and peace is something that is we feel when we actually conduct ourselves, when we have a certain relationship, when we behave, then we feel peace in our relationship. When we feel peace as an outcome of our behavior, as an outcome of our conduct. So this, if happiness is there inside me, happiness is feeling of fulfillment, feeling of resolution, right? I know the things, I can produce what I want, and I am self-reliant, and I'm prosperous. This itself is a feeling of, this will give a realization of happiness, and this will be expressed in my living. Then it will be peaceful in me and around me also. So because now I have no competition and no say exploitation, no fear, so I will feel affectionate. So there will be affection in me, because I will see everyone as my as that they are cooperating, right? Everyone as my friend, as they are helping me to grow. So there will be no affection in that way. As I see that most of our issues are because we see the other as we want more than the other, and so we know about all those things. So why I'm explaining this is because I saw affection here. How happiness and peace will lead to affection. It will not be from outside. It will be from me inside. Once I'm satisfied in me, once I have peace in me and in my surrounding, then only I can be affectionate. So this will lead to trust, trust in the system, trust in the orderliness, and trust in the society. So all these will be evidenced as enlightenment, and this will help us to get, this will help us to be capable of realization of the coexistence. Otherwise, we will be um, stuck in our own thoughts, in our own small struggles. So coexistence or sahastitva is the behavior characterized by absence of exploitation, accumulation, and malice. So as I was saying, and by presence of generosity, affection, seva, along with fulfilling relationships and association itself is coexistence. I think it is very well explained that once we have no malice, when once we are not accumulating, once we are not in we don't have an intention of exploiting other and getting things for us only and profit and uh, drawing something more from the other, then we are generous, affectionate. And seva is something very important. Like trying to seva is given in the further anubhuti also. So we'll be seeing there. Seva is something where you're ready to devote yourself. And this will be seen in all our relationships and associations. As and when it is needed, then only we can exhibit that the coexistence among human beings. Absence of conflict or nirvirod, certainty, dedication, and practice towards justice and dharma itself is absence of conflict. So if we understand what is justice and what is dharma, then only we can express this. Then only we can have no conflict. Prosperity or samriddhi, the lack of feeling of lacking itself is prosperity. Production in excess is prosperity. So prosperity is not having more, it is actually we are able to produce, we have this confidence in our own understanding and skills, and then we also have determined our needs, then only we can feel this, that we are prosperous. So it is the feeling of fulfillment, of self-reliance, that I'm not dependent on anybody else for my own need, for my own requirement. Happiness or sukh, the result of just behavior and dharma based thought, resolution is happiness. So if we live like that, I just imagine that there is a just behavior and my thoughts are having no conflicts. It's a big thing that I have no conflicts even in my thoughts. And if I have no competition, if I have no malintention, then what is stopping me to be happy? So, and if I know what to do, and if I have answers in all situations, I will not be afraid. I will be confident. I will have trust in every person whom I'm meeting. So, that will be a beautiful feeling of happiness. Affection, sneh. Affection is the consequence of absence of conflict in just behavior. It is an activity of man in an avakin jivan that is inspired from vritti. So the deliberations in vritti will help us to reach to this stage of affection. Trust or vishwas. Trust is the act of fulfilling the inherent expectation of values in mutuality. So this is an expression of resolution. Trust is an expression of, as I see it, is an expression of resolution. And I also understand what is required in any relationship, what is required in any associationship. So I will see and I can understand, I can perceive, and then I will act accordingly. I will behave accordingly. So it's not like I have to do something, it will be automatic. And this act of fulfilling will lead to mutual happiness. It will it will be an outcome of respect and just behavior. Seva. Seva is the tendency to derive satisfaction from performing acts of benevolence. It is also the act of providing help and cooperation based on remuneration. In the benevolence focused seva, satisfaction is derived from performing acts of benevolence. In remuneration focused seva, only the remuneration is considered. So, Rakesh bhai, I think this one line, it is also the act of providing help and cooperation based on remuneration is not there in Hindi, in at least in my file. So please see this.
दीदी इसमें ये लिखा है ना, that उपकार कर संतुष्ट होने की प्रवृत्ति और प्रतिफल के आधार पर किया गया सहयोग.
Okay.
Pratifal is remuneration. So
So,
seva can
huh.
be done for both ways. One is that you are basically doing out of benevolence. You don't expect anything in return. And
Mm-hmm.
second thing is there where you expect certain something for return. Like for example, uh, getting a haircut is a seva. So you actually do it for the
Mm-hmm.
remuneration. So what he's basically saying is that if you for a benevolence focused seva, the satisfaction is derived from the act of benevolence, while the remuneration focused seva, only the remuneration is considered. Right?
Right. Actually, there are two sentences where there was in Hindi one. So I got little
Yeah.
confused. Like, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much for explaining that. So I'll just read on this.
Indeed.
Benevolence or upkar is, that is, benevolence encompasses help and inspiration for awakening and prosperity. So he's taking this further as upkar is something where we help or inspire somebody, help or inspire someone for awakening and prosperity. So even helping people for prosperity so that they are happy, they are fulfilled, and then further motivating them for awakening is also a kind of benevolence or upkar, which is a big thing, which is a behavior of a conduct of a divyamanav, that is divine human. As previously described, humans have desired the righteous utilization and security of resources obtained through experimentation and production. So again, human have this desire. They have this inherent desire, but they don't know how to do it. So the righteous utilization and security of resources can only be achieved through humanness in thought and behavior. Humans utilize science and wisdom to build systems that enable this. So righteous utilization of resources is that they are not misused either in extravagant or in accumulation, and we actually use whatever we need, and then we can keep the distribute the rest of it for the benefit of society or for those who need, and in this way it will be protected. In this way its tradition will be there, so that it will be secured. Then and it is seen only in human thought and human behavior. In human thought and behavior will not have these two things. So human utilize science and wisdom to build system that enable this. A system that is a system of education. Um, with the help of science and wisdom, human have derived ways for righteous utilization and production of the wealth. And then they can build system where the security of the resources can be enabled, where um, they can they can have their what we can say policies so that the resources are equally available to all and they are not exploited and nobody is accumulating that. So two kinds of systems are apparent in the entire delusional human tradition. One is religious system and another is political system. So he is slowly explaining, expanding this, the policy or the systems that people have tried to put in place. Like how I see this as when human civilization was evolving, they tried to put a system where the more powerful is not exploiting the less powerful. So there should be some rule for that. There should be some do's and don'ts for this. There should be some legislation. And earlier it was religious, and then they make it political in a particular state, in a particular geographical area, so that everyone living in that area is following that system. So this was pertaining to that, that every that nobody is going to snatch or nobody is going to empower anyone and get the things by uh, say any wrong means. So these two systems were there, but again these two systems were developed with limited understanding, and people had their own thought. They have their own groupism community, and then this religious system and political system also failed. However, the they both of these, as Babaji is explaining further, the mutual complementariness of these two systems, religious and political, is absolutely necessary for preservation of sociality. So the intent to establish this system was good for preservation of sociality. Unfortunately, due to lack of understanding, they proved to be more root cause of division, and they prove to be more detrimental. In the awakened human tradition, the righteous utilization of resources available in every family becomes evident in the form of dharma policy, and security becomes evident in the form of state policy. This itself is the basis of indivisible society, universal system. So, Babaji is putting things in the right perspective here, that the resources that are available in any family will be utilized, and then its righteous utilization will be done, and it is seen if there is the policy is in alignment with dharma, it is in alignment with the how much that resource is needed, how much it is needed for a particular family, and then what is more than required, and then what is the right use of it. Like if I have anything in my own possession, if I have manufactured something, if I have produced something, then I don't have the right to use it in any way I want. It has to be utilized in a particular way. There will be a particular system to use it, right? So that is dharma policy, and the security of that particular resource will be decided, will be seen in the state policy, and this will lead to an indivisible society. The society will be indivisible because everyone will get everything they need based on their capacity, based on their requirement. So something will be distributed and something will be exchanged in this kind of society, and then it will become a universal system. As I am repeating many times, that it is not that the ownership will define the state policy, but the requirement and the need of every family in the society, every person in the society will determine what will be the state policy. Thus, the domains of religious system and political system are very clearly defined. However, when these two systems start exploiting or interfering with each other, instead of nurturing and complementing each other, societal imbalance arise, and human and inhuman thoughts and behavior are encouraged. This gives rise to need of an alternative based on humanness. So this is very well understood, and it is seen right now when the two systems, political and dharma system, are interfering with each other. They are mixed with each other, and they are actually talking about something else. Some third perspective is there. They are not actually nurturing; they are actually poisoning each other. So such cases lead to societal imbalance. This is enough discussed and described today. The legislation and system are the aspect that address the security of resources. The legislation become apparent in the conduct, and while the system becomes apparent in mutuality. So if we see this again, why resources are so important? Because every human wants first and foremost requirement of every human has to be fulfilled. And then once the living is ensured, once the happiness and prosperity of the family is ensured, then only the other systems can come into place. Otherwise, there will be struggle, there will be a fight, there will be war. So resources are very important to be protected in a proper way, in right way. So legislation will be that how I am using my thing, it is apparent in my conduct, while the system become apparent in mutuality. So when people are behaving in a society, then they will follow the legislation, and this will be seen as a system. This will not be seen as a chaos. The utility of legislation becomes evident in the form of wisdom-based fostering of individual and societal behavior, righteous spending, and satisfaction in mutuality. As mentioned above, the utility of the system lies in establishing a tradition of understanding for effectively implementing the intent of legislation. The grandeur of legislation aspects gets manifested in the awakened tradition. This is a further explanation of the previous Anubhuti only, where Babaji is stressing on that a legislation is good enough only if it is wisdom based. If it ensures that the righteous spending is there, if it ensures that everybody is satisfied, the satisfaction is mutual. Otherwise, it will lead to struggle, war, chaos in the society, and then it will not lead to awakened tradition. Awakened tradition is based on a social stability, is based on a stable system. So this will be developed, this stability will be achieved only with understanding and also effective implementing the legislation. This effective implementing, as I see it, I am not very sure that this effective implementing is not by any kind of power or is not by dominance, but it will be done by proper teaching and following the things in each and every family, in each and every society, and taking decision collectively rather than putting something from outside. The next anubhuti is entire universe is apparent and differentiation of insentient and sentient. So this is the heart baseline of coexistence, that whole universe is divided into sentient and insentient. In the absence of sentient entity, the body cannot perform any function. Humans are a developed unit of sentient universe. So I'm expecting that we know about sentient and insentient since we have been discussing this. Our body is part of the insentient part, whereas we are sentient jivan. So our body cannot function if there is no jivan. This is how he has felt it, and he was the first person to tell this to the world. Consciousness or knowledge is omnipresent. It is permeative, transparent, non-activity, that is devoid of wave or pressure. Since consciousness is omnipresent, it doesn't prove to be a unit. Consciousness doesn't prove to be the root cause of universe's origin, because it is devoid of change. Coexistence is the root cause of universe. All the changes are only within nature, saturated in the consciousness. The uniform energy is in the form of consciousness in, by, and for humans. So as Babaji is trying to explain that what is sentient and insentient, he is starting from the basic that the sentient have the ability to see, perceive, that is conscious. We are conscious. The insentient doesn't have this ability, but they have ability to recognize and to fulfill. So the consciousness or knowledge is present everywhere, is available to all, but only the sentient ones, sentient entities uh, can receive that and can express in accordance to that. How, what is this consciousness? He's describing this, that it is permeative, it is transparent and non-activity. So he's actually drawing a line that whatever is insentient will have wave, will have some activity, and whatever is not insentient, sorry, whatever is matter, whatever is an entity will have some activity, will have some form of activity. Maybe it is thought, or it is wave, or it is pressure, or anything. But the consciousness is not having any activity. So it is devoid of any kind of activity. Since it is not an activity in itself, therefore it cannot create an activity. So it, therefore it does not, it is not the cause for creation of any entity, because any entity is defined by activity. So since it is not an activity, it cannot do it is not an activity form. It is not, it is there as a reality, but there is no activity in it. So it cannot give rise to an activity. So he is actually challenging a thought which was there in earlier understanding in Indian school of thought, Vedas, that everything is originated from Brahma, or Brahma is the root cause of origin of all uh, nature, all entities in the nature. So he's actually saying that it cannot be the root cause of the origin of universe. Universe is the root cause of origin of universe is coexistence. Coexistence of the consciousness and the entities. Coexistence of the entities in the nature and consciousness. So it is actually the root cause of universe. All the changes are only within the nature saturated in the consciousness. So consciousness does not change. It remains as such. Uh, it has no form. So if it has no form, so there will be no change. And this uniform energy is in the form of consciousness in, by, and for humans. This energy, this consciousness is consciousness for human. Rest of the world, for rest of the entities, it is in the form of energy. The energy that is keep them going, moving. Consciousness itself is the root cause of energy in all sentient and insentient entities. As a result, matter in development progression, with the activity of effort, motion, and result, emerges in the form of sentient and insentient world. This explains that the seed and fruit form of the sentient and insentient world are inherent in the material world. Furthermore, it is evident that the seed of awakening is inherent in human jivan, as every human desires to be awakened. This itself is the evidence of coexistence. So, Babaji has described consciousness as energy, absolute energy, and this absolute energy is available to all the entities in the universe, whether it is sentient or insentient. If it is sentient, then we call it consciousness. And this energy is the reason that is responsible for any kind of motion, effort, and then finally the result that is coming out of it. And all the development progression can be seen as the manifestation of this effort, motion, and result principle of which is explained in coexistential theory or philosophy. And by this, if we see that these interactions have given rise to several things in the world, several kinds of entities, and the whole nature is there. So he explains that the the all this are present in seed form, right? Were present in seed form and which were seen as in nature, right? And similarly, we have awakening in seed form in the human jivan, in the human what we can say, in us as an entity, because every human wants to be awakened, every human desires to be awakened, because we want to achieve the completeness. There is a development progression in this, so our development progression will be towards awakening. All units of universe are inspired by consciousness according to their receptivity. The consequence of this effect is a continuous impulsion in these units. This impulsion is the root of activity and the cause of effort, motion, and result. The effort, motion, and result manifest in the form of development progression in material nature, which transcends in the form of sentient nature or jivan from development. The sentient nature is essentially the constitutionally complete atom. So the next question arises that if consciousness is available to everyone, then why not all entities become sentient, and why there is a whole development progression? So he is explaining this, that all the universe, all entity has some constitution, and this constitution make them capable of receiving this energy, make them capable of receiving and expressing this energy or the consciousness, right? And this consciousness keeps them moving towards achieving a system, a pattern of orderliness, which will help them to be complete, so towards completeness. So this basic intent, or this basic impulsion to be inspiration, to be in a particular system, to be in a particular order, is the root cause of whatever is happening as a develop as is the root cause and also effect of the whole development progression. All the effort, motion, and result are seen as in this form. And finally, while in the developmental progression, or the atoms which are there, once at some point of time, they achieve the constitutional completeness. And this constitutional completeness is something that it doesn't change any further, it becomes permanent, right? So it marks a particular point of development that it is complete. And then it attains some new quality, that is consciousness. So sentient nature is essentially the constitutionally complete atom. Otherwise, before that, there is activity of exchange, there is activity of physical interaction or other kind of interaction, which will lead to forming of certain other structures. So that will be seen in the development progression. Behavior in human is a combination of intellectual and physical aspects, and all actions performed through the body involve both physical and intellectual aspects. So, when we say behavior, then it is with human body. When we say thought, it may be with Jivan only, but it is the root. It is generated with through the information that we gathered from body and what we see. So, our behavior is an expression of both, combination of what we understand and what we have uh, as in front of us or what we see in our surrounding, right? So all actions are performed through the body, involve both physical and intellectual activities. So activities of the sentient nature and activities of the insentient atoms or entities. The physical aspect of human behavior refers to the body and the activities such as production performed with it. The intellectual aspects pertain to hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, and authenticity, which includes knowledge, wisdom, science, and its related processes. Now, I am finding this part little difficult to explain. So, wherever I am lacking, Bhaiya, please explain. The
Yeah, sure.
physical. So, when we say the physical aspect, then we are talking about how Jivan is interacting with our body and then how we are performing that activity. So, and the activities of the production, the activities that we daily perform with our body, like eating, digestion, and other sleep and other things, they are performed. They are also part of our life. They are also part of our behavior. So they are performed with the signal from Jivan, of course, with some stimulus from Jivan, of course, but they are performed with help of body. Whereas the other activities like hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, authenticity, understanding, for these we do not need body. Like we do not need body means they are performed only in Jivan. So what
Right.
is hope? Is it right, Bhaiya?
Ji, bilkul. So
Ji.
basically, we are saying that human being is a combined expression of uh, mind and body. So there is a intellectual aspect and a physical aspect. And physical aspect would be with the body and all the things that we do in the world out there, and the aspect that is there in the Jivan. So that is our intellectual aspect, where which we study in detail of the activities of Jivan, like hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, and authenticity. Right. So now we talks about the definitions of these. Didi.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you for complimenting. Hope or asha, hope is an expectation based on some form of refuge. Hope can be either founded on the refuge of the body or on refuge of realization. So hope uh, is basically that what we want, what we hope is a kind of want, of course, where it is for any bodily pleasure, or if it is for any body requirement, or if it is for something that we need to satisfy our physical needs, or it can be for satisfaction of our emotional needs, or it can be for satisfaction of our intellectual needs or intellectual requirements. So if it is realization based, then it will be a hope which is for human. Otherwise, the hope for survival is also there. Like, if it will not be called hope, but hope for survival is also there in the animal consciousness. So here the hope is either generated from the body requirements, or it is from our emotional or intellectual requirements. Thought or vichar. Thought refers to the acceptances through analysis with the purpose of resolution. Now, this is the absolute definition of thought, where uh, we accept a thing, where we analyze various aspects of anything. It is generated in vritti, and here we actually compare things. There is deliberation on various aspects. We try to see a thing in its totality and then try to comprehend and accept. So this analysis is with purpose of what? Babaji has written here as purpose of resolution. Mostly our thoughts are, I don't know whether they are with purpose of resolution or with purpose of getting something or with purpose of achieving some goal. So the thoughts are actually based on analysis of uh, what we want and how we want it, and based on the surroundings, what the information that we get, and we analyze those with our perspective. Desire or ichha. Desire refers to activity that grasps and visualize shape, kind, purpose, possibility, and deploys attributes into motion. The powers of Jivan get described in the form of attributes, intrinsic nature, and dharma, that is resolution. So here he is describing that we desire something based on how we see a thing, right? And then we try to visualize it, we try to make a picture of it. In that picture we try to draw the object in its appearance, and then we also add the attributes to it, and then we also try to add the purpose, if we can add the purpose, and then what is the possibility. So all these, if they are put in a place in a common larger picture, then we desire something, we plan to get it either, or we want that. So this is the driving force behind all our thoughts, right? So here all that visualization occurs where we see a thing in how, and this seeing is not seeing in absolute sense. We see a thing based on our beliefs, we see the thing based on our conditioning also. So the power of Jivan gets described here in the form of attributes, intrinsic nature, and dharma. So if how pure is our desire is seen in these forms. How we are able to see the object, whether we are seeing only its we are looking at an object with on the basis of appearance, or on the basis of attributes, or on the basis of the intrinsic nature, or on the basis of dharma. So that gives uh, a good reflection of the Jivan power also, the power of the Jivan also, the understanding of the Jivan in this way. So what we understand is what we express. Resoluteness or Ritambara is the background for expressing the grandeur of truth. It refers to resolve that is repleted with truth. So I actually had struggled initially in initial years to understand that what is this Ritambara. So I will place how I understand it. When we have all information without any doubts in its completeness, and when all this information is well settled in us, that there is no fog of belief or misconception, and we know we have the information about each and every entity in the existence, and so we can see everything clearly. Like, we know the attributes, we know the intrinsic nature, and we know the dharma of each and every entity, and therefore we understand the whole existence. So therefore we have all the knowledge, not the knowledge per se, we have all the information in the right form, in the light of truth. Because then we can say that this stage where I have this potential of information, this background is gives me some power, or this gives me some strength, that is resoluteness. The next is resolve or sankalp. Resolve is the intellectual activity that provides continuity to acceptance through a holistic understanding, that is clarity about what needs to be accepted. Now this is again something very important. that clarity about what needs to be accepted, right? So once you have all the information clear, you have no doubt, that no confusion, no fog of any kind of prejudice or any kind of misconception or any kind of conditioning, then the buddhi is ready to accept what information is there, and then it allows that to go inside, right? It allows it to be settled in that is called the complete acceptance, that there is no it is a stable condition, right? So in this condition we call that there is a resolve or there is a sankalp. Humans, in the course of understanding and recognizing their significance in the universe, have endeavored to study the constitution, activity, and conduct of every unit. Furthermore, they have endeavored and practiced to attain completeness. Now, why we are studying all this? This was my question also when I was studying Manav Vyavhar Darshan for the first time, that why we need to study Srishti Darshan, why we need to know about the whole universe. But then it comes very clear that we need to understand how every entity works. We need to understand the developmental progression. We need to understand how different entities are operating in the universe and how this coexistence is manifesting itself in the material order, in the pran order, and then how this is actually expressing itself in the, this helps us to understand how the coexistence is manifesting itself in the sentient entity. So to understand us, we need to understand rest of the world, then only we can place ourselves. So and then only we can attain the completeness, because we can see the direction in which the whole universe is going. We can see the direction in which coexistence is going. So that is the direction towards completeness. The next anubhuti is, in the course of above study, it was realized that fundamental unit of nature is the insentient atom only, which attains sentience upon development as of constitutional completeness. After achieving constitutional completeness, its endeavor is for activity completeness. So, because Babaji studied rest of the thing, all these activities of Jivan, what he is describing, Babaji studied everything, and I would say every time he is writing human in the previous few paragraphs, he is writing about about himself. So in this course, he found that the fundamental unit of nature is insentient atom only, which is a physical form of atom, which is a physical entity, which which develops into a constitutionally complete atom, and this constitutionally complete atom then acquires certain new quality, and then this new quality is called sentience, where it starts seeing, where it starts perceiving, where it starts thinking. So that is called that will be attained only after activity completeness. So further he is explaining what is constitution or gatan. Constitution refers to the process that provides intactness to a lawfully disciplined and bounded definite activity of recognizing and fulfilling among multiple particles. So here he is explaining the basic law of constitution, basic law of nature, that how atoms are formed. Atoms are formed when two particles recognize each other, they recognize each other, and then they get into a pattern, they get into an orderliness, which is lawfully bound, which is disciplined, where there is a pattern of repetitive pattern of some activity. And once they are stabilized, then they are intact. So intactness depends on the stability of that entity. Once it is stabilized, then that, and this stability depends on their mutual recognition and fulfilling. So mutual recognition and fulfilling means they are balanced, they come close to each other, they attract each other, then they settle in a particular path or orbit where one revolves around the other. So that is a kind of constitution or atomic structure which is there. So this constitution is the basic form, absolute form of all entities in the universe. No, none of the entities are different from this. So what is conduct? The activity of an entity exhibits its essentiality is referred to as conduct. Conduct itself is the intrinsic nature and the law. So once any atom is formed, any kind of constitution is there, then it expresses its uniqueness. Then it expresses its some unique property, something which is very unique to that particular constitution, which is called conduct. So this becomes its intrinsic nature, which is due to its constitution, which is not due to any other thing, which is due to its constitution. How many particles are there, how they are organized, and how they are working, and how they are actually interacting with the rest of the entities in the world. So this becomes the intrinsic nature of that particular constitution or atom.
Shubha
Insentient.
Didi,
Ji bhaiya.
would we have some time for Q&A now?
Sure bhaiya. I
Uh,
was just going
how
through like
much were
that.
you planning to cover?
Up
In,
to page 80 bhaiya. That was what we decided.
okay,
Three more
so
pages.
3 more pages are there.
Yes,
Okay, but I
yes.
think it is better to take the break for the Q&A because we had said that last 15 minutes we will keep for that. Maybe,
So should I go just like Jad and Chaitanya, that is sentient and
yeah, I
insentient, so
think
I'll
that
complete
you
this.
complete this one.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I'll go quickly. I think I was slow today. I'll go quickly.
No, no, it's fine. Fine.
So the constitution once is formed is insentient and sentient divided into two. Insentient or Jad is the entity lacking the thought aspect, whose field of activity is limited to its length, width, and height, is referred to as insentient. So he is talking about all the actually the atoms which are there in the material order, which work in their limited space, which have limited length, width, and height in which they are working, and their effect is seen. Limited, that means their effect is seen in a particular length, width, and height. Whereas the sentient or Chaitanya, the entity whose field of activity extends beyond its length, width, and height, and whose thought aspect is active, is referred as sentient. So we have discussed this, that it once it is constitutionally complete, it attains a new power, that is thought, that is it starts receiving the consciousness and expressing in a different way. So that is thought. And then this particular atom is now able to have its influence or its effect in a larger area beyond its length, width, and height, which is much more powerful than a insentient atom. So that's it. Thank you, Priya.
Very nice, Vaididi. So I think we have made some progress since the first chapter. Rishta talked about coexistence, and
Mm-hmm.
then we had the chapter of gratitude and then the holistic view of the universe. So
Mm-hmm.
coexistence talked about the two realities, where omnipotence and nature. And
Mm-hmm.
then we actually had the universe, the holistic view of the universe describing and describes that all the four orders, how they are actually orders in themselves. And now when we are coming to this chapter, that is this, what is the purpose of human being? So we are coming, we basically realize that the purpose of human being can only be understood in terms of not in isolation, but how human beings relate with each other. What are the issues involved? How their conduct is uh, actually becomes regulated. So, so unlike the rest of the nature apart from humans, the conduct is becoming automatically regulated because there is no choice over there. Over here, the choice is. So a number of things then actually come into play. And that is why this chapter actually talks about culture, civilization, legislation, and systems, because these are the ways in by which the activity of humans can actually give a basis of it, of regulating it, right? So that and basically this chapter talks about what are these things, how can they be, how can these systems, how can these uh, human-made systems like education, like production, like exchange, like justice, all these systems, can these be infused with meaning, right? Because the conduct of humans is getting influenced by them, right? Similarly, culture, similarly, civilization, right? So, so these are the, so this chapter actually is talking about these dimensions that are there, that are there in the human life, and um, and 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 to actually understand what they are. So when we are seeing this thing, the this thing in this way, then we start appreciating the extent to which we are actually doing right. Not just we don't get that feeling that everything is wrong. We start getting the feeling that, oh, we have been able to recognize so much, right? Only this much needs to be added. So that is basically is the thing that needs to be understood, that humankind's journey has been a progression towards awakening. And in this process, we have identified whole lot of things in this. In this process, now there is, we need to infuse all those systems, all those cultures, civilization, etc., with this understanding. So, and then the picture becomes complete, right? So, so if we are having any questions, then maybe we can have that with Shubha Didi. And next is, after this is Kuhu. Kuhu Kalod, I think she is there today. Kuhu, are you there today? Yes, I can see you are
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I'm here.
Yes, very nice. So Kuhu will continue from this point in the next session. So if
Yeah.
there are any questions, then maybe we can have them now for Shubha Didi. Shubha Didi, you want to say something?
No, Bhaiya, I think I have already said a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, I think all of us are learning together in this process, and
Yes.
it's all, every time when we actually read this, it gives us understanding of some dimension. And
Yes.
while you were reading it, my attention went to that line about
Ah, ok.
Niyam. Hello?
Somebody
Je
said,
j'écoute un truc il y a encore 10 minutes, je crois. Et
I
après,
think there is some needs to be done. Yeah, I think it's all right. So, yeah, so my attention went to when you were describing the definition of niyam, or the law, that there needs to be, it is it is something that basically is the background for regulation of an activity. So, and thereafter you basically describe the four aspects of human, which actually regulate them, like, for example, culture, civilization,
mm,
legislation, and systems, right?
mm,
So these four aspects are the things which regulate. So these are the background for regulating human conduct, right? So then we actually understood what would be their holistic definitions of these four things. So I think this chapter is a very important chapter, because it basically concerns us, concerns our lives. So it also talked about the definition of adhyan, right?
mm,
Which basically is quite the central definition, where we basically understood that how uh, the understanding of one person, somebody one who has the realization, can impart that realization, can impart that understanding by use of words to others. So that is a very crux of this whole darshan,
Dash.
that a realization can be expressed in words, and the understanding can be transferred from one person to the other person, right? So
What I
so
was reading here, that teaching definition,
hmm,
Adhyan, we have read several times.
yeah.
Like but when I was reading teaching this time, I realized that Babaji has done so much of effort in making this so that we can study, so that he
Mhm.
can teach. So he has derived so many ways, like how can we read this, how he can teach us. He must have thought a
Mhm.
lot. That came into
Indeed.
my
Yeah,
contemplation, then putting the things, and then language, then exhibiting. He must have thought about all the ways where he can help us to learn.
definitely. So important thing is that basically it's this whole Adhyan thing is a two-way process in
Mm.
which there is an involvement of the teacher and the involvement of the student. So both the roles are important for the study to happen, right? One is bringing the knowledge or the evidence of it with bringing that to the table, and other is bringing their kalpanashilta or ability to imagine and their
Yes.
inquiry, right? So both these things together actually can lead to the process of adhyan. Yeah.
Mm.
So, very nice. We are about time. So, if there are no other questions, then maybe we can actually close today's session and resume on the next Tuesday. So, once again,
Okay.
thank you so much, Shubha Didi, for taking this up. Yeah,
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thanks again for providing this opportunity.
it's welcome. So, namaste and good night.
Namaste.
Namaste, Spencer.
Namaste. Good night.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste, Hari.
Thank you,
night.
Shubha Didi. Namaste.